After the end of the Cold War, the world was looking for a return to the old way of life or a new life. But some things were similar, such as the dominance of the aviation industry in the West. Aviation rules were set by industry giants like Boeing and Airbus. But Russia offered something different, a smaller, more efficient, and ambitious passenger aircraft. It is called the Sukhoi Superjet 100. In the late 1990s, Russia was planning to revitalize civil aviation. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, many aircraft programs had been shelved or had fallen behind technologically. However, the past was very promising. Solid aircraft like the Yak-40 and Tu-134 had earned their place in history, but it was time to trade them in for a more modern and competitive fighter. This is where Sukhoi came in. Sukhoi, known for its skill in military aircraft, was determined to apply this knowledge to the civilian sector. But the aim was not only to create a new aircraft, but also to restore the reputation of Russian civil aviation. The Superjet 100 was not just a product, but a symbol. Interestingly, it was not only Russian. The project was characterized by international partnerships, including the development of power jets. However, the aircraft's greatest achievement was more symbolic than technical. After years of stagnation, the Superjet symbolized Russia's intention to revive its aviation industry. Government organizations, foreign and domestic companies, engineers, and aviation authorities worked together to coordinate the project. The key component of the project was the Powerjet SAM-146 engine, developed by SNECMA and NPO Saturn in France and Russia. Built on common expertise, this engine was quiet and fuel efficient. But everything was so difficult that not everything was a pushover. The engine required expensive maintenance due to reliability issues, especially in extremely hot or cold climates. In addition, the Western-dominated supply chain became a major weakness as political tensions increased in the late 2010s. There have been other setbacks. A test flight accident near Moscow in 2012 and operational problems with cost and maintenance would have brought the program to a very low point. However, Russia continued with the project. Sukhoi Civil Aircraft Company launched an extensive upgrade and overhaul process to resolve technical issues and optimize support systems. The true story of the Superjet was characterized by its resilience, which included a dedication to continuous development, learning from operator input, and creating a more reliable platform. Russian airlines, including flag carrier Aeroflot, aggressively expanded their fleets with SSJ-100s. Due to its low passenger capacity and relatively low operating costs, it has become a viable option for underserved routes. The aircraft has also been widely used by airlines outside Russia, such as Interjet in Mexico. Long-term problems arose due to a shortage of spare parts and poor maintenance infrastructure, underlining the need for a more independent Russian support system. The Superjet continued to fly despite everything. Moreover, each flight served as a representation of engineering tenacity, patriotism, and international goals. However, the story is far from over. The aviation industry witnessed drastic changes in the 2020s due to political turmoil, economic instability, and epidemics. For many, it was a time of slowdown. However, for Russia, it shone like a ray of sunshine to start again. The SSJ-100 had transformed from a civil aircraft project into a mission of national technological independence. Now it is the turn of the SSJ-New. This was not just an improvement, but a complete overhaul. The aim is to develop a completely domestically produced superjet and eliminate dependence on Western components. More than 40 systems and subsystems have been redesigned. Russian suppliers were used for landing gear, electrical systems, avionics, environmental controls, and even the cabin interior. A world of things changed in the engine. Based on the PD-21 engine family created for the MC-14, Aviat Vigatel designed the new PD-146 engine to replace the SAM-146-8. This was a step towards a completely independent Russian aviation ecosystem, not only for SSJ-New, but redesigning an aircraft of this size is as much a logistical and political undertaking as a technical one. Time and resources were required for each step, including the integration of new parts, testing the aircraft in flight, obtaining national certification, and negotiations with operators. Nevertheless, Russia persisted. The first SSJ-New prototype components entered the market by 2023. The first test aircraft was almost complete by 2024. These achievements demonstrated a commitment to autonomy and a developing engineering strength. During this transition, Sukhoi's civil division changed its name to Yakovlev, paying homage to Soviet-era icons such as the Yak-40 and Yak-42. This was a symbolic rebirth rather than just a name change. However, there was still uncertainty about certification in Western markets. As Western components were phased out, global supply chains became increasingly complex. But Russia had other targets in mind than North America and Europe. Regions such as Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, and Africa, where demand for reasonably priced regional jets was growing, offered new opportunities. The SSJ-New was a strategic alternative for countries that shared Russia's political and economic views. Thus, the development of the Superjet involved not only technology, but also independence, geopolitics, and long-term planning. The debut of the SSJ-New was a statement rather than just an engineering achievement. The Superjet was intended to give a better flight for pilots and passengers by having a larger cabin than its competitors, improve cockpit avionics, and a quieter cabin, thanks to PD-8 engines. It was economical for airlines as it could serve low-traffic routes from short runways. Its digital cockpit and modern fly-by-wire systems simplified pilot training and increased operational reliability. In conclusion, the story of the Superjet 100 is much more than success or failure. It involves perseverance, ambition, and negotiating the complex intersections of politics, business, and identity. There is an opportunity for SSJ-New to change this narrative. As a state-of-the-art, standalone jet, it charts a bold new course rather than a correction of previous mistakes. However, there are still many unanswered questions. Will SSJ-New be able to gain the international trust it seeks? Will the supply chain and certification issues be resolved? Above all, will passengers and airlines accept it? The sky is hard. Is the Superjet finally ready to meet